Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to a Total War Pharaoh's Dynasties guide on the court system. This is going to be a 101, so really entry level, just kind of show you the block and tackle for how courts work. And hopefully this kind of just gets more people activated in it. I have a lot of comments on my videos just about people asking for this type of overview. This is going to be one of a video series where I'll be covering a little bit more of these nuances of Total War Pharaoh in depth. So, like, comment, subscribe, and follow along for more. So when you get to around turn 9, you're able to then select your path to power. We're going to use Ramses here as our example. So for this, we're going to go ahead and select. Choosing this tradition's fine. We won't get into the power of the crown here. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do for your faction leader, and even at that character select when you're deciding who you want to play, is go ahead and check out your faction summary. This is going to have something down here that explains exactly what you can do in court. So, court. As Ramses, you have 2 court actions per turn, while other factions only have 1. This means you can effectively accomplish twice as much in court, gain regard quickly, use multiple requests, or spin plots with the highest chance of success. Having more court actions also allows you to react to plots against you. If you learn about one, you can use gossip to find out who is plotting, then use discourage to remove the plot without paying gold. So, this we'll go ahead and just go through the plot and the court system here. But the reason why we kind of chose Ramesses for this this tutorial is because this is going to kind of be an expedited version of how perhaps for another faction this would be played out over more turns, because he essentially gets 2 actions per turn. Great. You'll see the icon here for available court actions. That's just going to indicate that you have actions to do. You'll also get a notification before you end turn that a court action is needed. But you just want to make sure that you are using these. Sometimes if you don't, you might accidentally skip an action or a turn to do an action, and everything really adds up. Okay, so your basic court UI here, you have your character, you have your legitimacy, you then have your unique faction abilities, your overview of what's going on, your turns of what's going on with these turns and these plots that are unfolding. This is the intro, so there's not going to be a lot of things built up to this. This is where it starts on turn 9. Plots, this is where you'll see the plots that you have activated. This will see where you have the plots activated against you, and this is where you can see where other people have plots against other targets. You can find this out by gossiping, for example. Okay? Now, when you select a unit or a person sitting at court, you'll see their position benefits of what plots they get by sitting there, and also other factors like how much legitimacy they get for sitting in that seat. When we look down here, there's going to be essentially 3 main actions you can do. Your intrigues, making a request, and your plots. So for performing intrigue is best for building up regard. You then use that regard and court actions to either make requests, so you can see here, your regard icon and your court action icon, and then plot against. This is what you're going to use to be more like offensive on the in court. So you have your court actions, your regard, and then your legitimacy. The resource that you spend is going to be your court actions and your regard. So as Ramses, there are some factions that start out sitting in a seat. Like if I was to start as Amenes, I'd already be sitting in the Viceroy of Kush. Similarly, for other factions like Suplauma, you will be the king of that the Hittites, and so you'll be up there already starting up, and you're going to have to play a little bit more defensively. But this is a good show of like how to use the court system, okay? So the first thing you want to look at is your legitimacy. You're then going to compare that to other legitimacy on this. So you can see the person closest to us is this vizier. Now the reason why you want to track your legitimacy is when you make requests or plot against, more so, the percent chance of you succeeding here, for discredit for example, will be 38% chance for somebody with 33. If I go to this guy who has 45, and I plot against, and I do discredit, he now has 32. So it's a little bit more difficult. 49, for example, plot against, 30. So our chances of it being successful start at a lower end of the scale. So With that said, as Ramses, the first thing I'd probably want to do, and what I would recommend, is trying to get on a court seat. So what we would do is, let's just take out... Let's just say if you wanted to go here. Typically what happens as well too in your faction summary, it'll tell you where you should go or where you should try to go. But take a look at everybody's different abilities when you hover over them. Access to Kushite units anywhere. Income of gold. Legitimacy +7. So you'll see that these court positions have different things that they can do. And benefits. So see where you want to end up. This is telling me to go to first commander, so this is what we'll focus on. Currently it's held by this guy. So before I do anything, I need to build up friendship or regard with this guy. So what I'll do is I will perform intrigue. Now, when you first start, you're probably not going to have a lot of access to gold. It does cost gold to assume an empty seat, unless you kick somebody out of a seat with the threatened plot. And we'll get into that. So you may want to have gold saved up just in case you're playing a faction where a seat is available when court opens up. For this now, for example, we're gonna focus on the objective here. We're going to focus on gaining the first commander's seat and also stealing legitimacy from this guy who's lesser than us. Okay? So as we begin, let's go ahead and use the gossip, because you could use this, and I would want to use this to just speed this up, but ultimately if you're playing the real game, you're not going to want to spend 360 gold for 120 regard. When you plot against somebody and you are leveling up that plot, it's going to cost you 1 court action and 30 regard or so to advance that plot to the next level, thereby increasing the chance of it being successful. So this, if we start off with 120 regard, we don't have to spend turns using gossip to build regard with that person at 30 a tick here, at 30 a turn. We could just dump it, get 120, and then immediately start plotting against him. But as this is the intro, and this is kind of how we would play it in real time, let's go ahead and just do this gossip. Okay?
How unusual.
Now Ramses again has that unique ability to have 2 court actions. So what we'll do here is we will continue this, and we will then plot against, and we will want to threaten. Okay? This is going to take a 28% chance, and we're going to try to bounce this guy out. Okay? So we'll go ahead and go to the next turn. Okay, so we've entered our next turn, and you can kind of see the court actions history, what we did last turn with those 2 court actions. Here we are now given another 2 court actions, and what we want to do is continue this. So we've already gone through performing intrigues by either assisting to gain that huge regard bump, gossiping to gain that 30 regard. Gossiping also allows us to see plots that are going on. It's essentially like you're talking to people at court, and you may find out who's plotting against other people. By clicking this display and hide plots, it'll show up here where people are plotting against, and you can kind of get an idea of saying, this guy is a target. We know that because that's us, and he is getting threatened by us. So conspire now, what we can do is, for example, click on, let's actually go with the vizier. We will perform intrigue. We will need to gossip with him first to gain that regard. Conspire is essentially going to allow him to go to our plots and call him into help. So when you're strengthening a plot, you can either strengthen it by spending regard with your target or spending regard with other people in the court, okay? By spending regard with who the target is, you would go ahead and perform Intrigue of Undermine. Now this improves the plot by 2 levels and increases its chance, but it will cost you 30 regard. So we'll spend that court action, perform this intrigue, and this bumps it up to 59%. This means that there's 4 turns left before this kicks off, okay? So you have 4 turns essentially to get this plot up as high as it can. You have about the max plot level is, I believe, level 5, and you'll see when it does reach that max plot because you can't do anything more there. So we've used up our turns. We're continuing to build this out. That's going to be good for this. Let's go ahead and move to our next turn.
My ambition is rewarded.
Okay, so we're now at turn 3, and you can tell that by tracking here. This is our in turn 11, but this is our 3rd turn. So we can open up our plots. We can see we have 3 turns left. Now, we already spent the regard we have with this guy. So one thing we can do is go ahead and continue. Again, Ramses has 2 court actions. Most factions only have 1. M&S, for example, can go ahead and use gold to buy additional court actions. So he's another really strong court player. But here, this is kind of shrunk in what would be more expanded over a multiple amount of turns, right? So we're kind of fast tracking this. Now, if we want to perform intrigue, we will ask this guy, the Vizier, who we did just gossip with earlier to gain that regard, to conspire. Conspire is going to essentially tell him, yo bro, let's go after the first commander, come help me out. So what this will do, it is going to increase the plot's level. So if we click this, we'll click the plot, and now this will get to 75%. Okay. Now,
I am sure
we have no more regard with him. We can build regard with other people too and bring them in. Now what you can see as well too is that if you look here, plot visibility, since we did share this plot with him, he now knows that this is going on. So if other people doing their court actions are gossiping with you and discover your plot, they can either help assist in it or they can downvote it and try to ruin your plot as well too. So there's a lot of action going on in court, okay? We still have that 1 court action available. We'll go ahead and perform intrigue here. We'll gossip to get that 30 regard back.
You're mixing with the right people now, friend.
And now let's go ahead and move to our next turn.
Be welcome.
Okay, so now in our next turn of court, our 4th turn being in court, we'll go ahead and see that we will go to plots. We will go to threaten. We will spend 1 of our court actions, that 30 regard that we have with him, and we will go ahead and strengthen this by undermining. This will now take that to 91% with 2 turns left to go. Okay. Now, this is as much as we can do. We can't make this plot any higher. This is the last of it. So, with that, what we may consider doing is looking at some of these guys and making a request. So, each of these seats have their own unique abilities. For example, position benefits, access Kushite units anywhere. You can use the request option to first, you got to build rapport with them, of course. You can then spend that rapport to get that ability as well. Okay. And so just kind of, I'm not going to go through what each of these position benefits are. You can kind of just learn what this is yourself. Embezzle, for example, a plot to steal gold from the royal treasury and frame a target's position's holder, causing them to lose legitimacy. So really what you're going to want to focus on is first getting this plot to threaten, to try to get a seat at court. Additionally, you're going to want to really focus on this discredit by stealing legitimacy from another court person. Okay. Blackmail, I don't use too much. This is something that I kind of, I don't really use blackmail too much. This is just another way to build regard, but again, it's going to take time to get that success. Okay. So I don't want to wait 5 turns to build 60 regard, for example, and have to like strengthen it to gain 60 regard. It's just, I don't know, it's not something I go for. I usually hit the threaten to get a seat or to move up in seats, and then this discredit here. So I'm gonna look at, I got 24 legitimacy. This guy at 29 is going to be my best bet because it's going to have the highest chance, base chance, before we improve the plot, just like how we did for Threaten. This is going to give me the best chance to start. So we'll perform, we'll plot against. We will then do a discredit to steal 10 legitimacy. This is now going to be for 5 turns, okay? And that's all our court actions. Let's go ahead and go to the next turn.
Serve me well, for the most holy are always watching.
Okay, so now that we are in this next round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our 5th turn at court, you know, we have 2 actions a turn, but you can see, you know, if you were playing another faction, this would be extrapolated out a little bit further, right? You would need to build more regard to have them conspire with you, to make sure that you have more people conspiring at once to increase that level within that time frame of that 5 turns. So here, let's see, discredit. Yep, this is us going against them. You can now see that this guy is initiating a plot. So he's initiating a plot, and I can kind of decipher that this guy is now has a plot against him. Okay, he's the target. So you got to kind of be like, you know, detective here and say, okay, this guy is initiating a plot. This guy just got this here. So what I can do is first, if I wanted to just see what this plot was, if I wanted to help with this plot, I can go ahead and perform intrigue. I can gossip. This
Your
notification,
will be remembered.
I basically talked to
I
this guy
swear.
and he spilt the beans, right? So now I know that he's plotting to blackmail your boy. So we can take a look at this. Now within here, I still have my court action. I can either take a look at this, 32% chance to blackmail the Pharaoh. On success, gain 80 regard and 31 gold from Merneptah. On failure, lose 3 legitimacy for each faction this plot is revealed to. So this could definitely hurt you if it gets revealed. So one thing you can do is you can encourage this plot, strengthen it, and gain 30 regard with the plotter here. Or you can go ahead and reduce the level of the plot by 1, and you will gain 30 regard with the target. Now, as Pharaoh, whoever, or King, whoever's on the top, whenever you make a request or perform intrigue here to gain regard with them, it's going to cost a lot of gold. It's going to cost, even to gossip, it costs gold, because it's very difficult to build regard with the head of the court, because they don't want it to be so easy for you to go ahead and boot this clown out. So by discouraging this is an easy way to build up rapport here as well too, when you find out these are happening. Here, with a 32% chance, you know, I would likely go and reduce this level.
Such kindness.
And now you can see that
is
that
the
has
shining
only
glory of the
18%.
court.
Okay. This is good here. And let's go to the next turn. Okay, so this is good to see. Sometimes you will get this prompt that there's a court intrigue. You can trade your court action for gold if you want. This will also be things like cancel your plot or, hey, start a plot. So you could consider doing any of these. But ultimately, I most often refuse this just because I have my own deal going on. I got my own plans. Now, what you'll see here is plots. We have successfully threatened. We have now assumed this position here. Okay. And now we have even more available court actions. So for here, let's go to discredit. We can look at this guy, right? 20 regard. And we can ask him to perform intrigue. We can ask him to conspire against this guy. Okay. Additionally, we still have 2 left. So what we can say is we will go here to the person we're targeting, the Vizier. We need regard with him before we can do a plot or strengthen the plot against him. So we will perform intrigue. we can gossip with him for that 20.
You thrive here.
And
at the
you'll
very
see,
heart of
going to
civilization.
discredit, we need 30 in total with him. So, we don't have that yet, but what we can do is, well, what you can't do is go ahead and gossip with him twice in one turn, right? But what we can do is go to blackmail, and we can lower this even more to gain more regard with the Pharaoh.
May the
So now we have
gods
60.
look kindly
So we can
upon
do
you.
like things like make requests. Strong arm sets the success chance of one of your threatened plots to 100. You do not have enough court actions. You need one for this request, and there are no threatened plots. So this is a way to utilize the king to get some of these plots to be like 100%. So really just familiarize yourself with what the positions can do. You know, intrigues against this position cost additional gold or regard. Plots against them have lower chance, and they get 20 legitimacy. Okay. Servants improve all of your active plots by 2 levels each. So let's go ahead and go to the next turn.
All are expected to bow in Pharaoh's presence.
Okay, so now you can see our next turn at court here. You can kind of track our history again. As first commander, we're able to do things like view army rages and can allocate 50% of cost to different categories. So you can also discount, say if I want to discount the recruitment of club units versus like Javelin, who I don't really recruit. So we'll toggle that down, for example. So that's just something that you can do as first commander. Additionally, you have elite units in special recruitment. So this is another cool thing to check out. You can go ahead and look in your special recruitment, and now you can kind of recruit some high top tier units. Okay. Going back into court
Serve
though,
me well,
let's go ahead and
for
go
the
to our
most
plots.
holy are always watching.
We do have a discredit here for this vizier. So one thing we could say is do this one. Okay. We'll perform intrigue. We need to raise the regard to at least 30. So we'll perform intrigue. We will make request. That's going to get set that at 40.
To come to me.
We can then go ahead and undermine to strengthen this to 87. And it's at the... We got one more tier to go to invest in this. However, since we have this regard with the king, because we've gotten these plots and this guy's plot failed, right? We can go ahead and make request. And... you need one for this request. Oh, my bad. We already spent that, so stand by. Next turn. All right. So for this turn now, this will kind of be our last turn of the tutorial, because what we've got here is we have this discredit here. Now this guy only has 10 regard, so what we can do is one thing is we could use the Pharaoh to make a request and have his servants improve all active plots by 2 levels each. However, it's expensive to get regard with this guy, right? So we only got this because we helped stop this guy's plot against him. So I wouldn't recommend spending this on him either right now, because we would probably want to get some more plots up and running, like threatens to move up or plotting to steal legitimacy through discrediting. So what we will do here, we'll use our one turn, our one action, court action, to perform intrigue. We will gossip. This will then give us 30%. We're also able to see that this guy is also doing a threatened plot against him. But here, what we want to focus on is really just building this plot up to its highest level. Okay? That will spend all of our available court actions, and let's go to the next turn to see how this all plays out. Okay, so here's another example of a intrigue or a prompt that happens, a guiding hand. This basically says, empowering indeed. If you accept this to be able to make informed decisions after stumbling through the darkness for so long, start a blackmail plot against the high priest. You lose 1 court action, but you do gain 50 gold. So there are times where you may want to take people up on this, but ultimately you're typically working your own plots and things within the court. So I would usually just refuse these, okay? Because if you were to start one and not take it all the way by reinforcing it and improving the plot, you're probably going to get the negative like benefits. You're probably going to get the negative side of it because you won't have a high enough success chance rate. Okay, jumping back into court.
Be welcome in the
We can
court
check out
of
this
Meneptah.
plot. Discredit successful.
Beloved
We now
of the
ripped
gods.
his legitimacy and brought it over to us as Ramses. Now we're at 49. This threaten, what I would do here is go ahead and gain regard with the plotter. You know, there's no point in using my court action to discourage this. So we will go ahead and make this better. We'll threaten.
Egypt stands
This is now
stronger
37
when
regard
her
against
children
him.
are united.
And then what we can do is say start our mission, knowing that we're at 49. We may want to actually start going after this guy. So we may want to plot against him and then go ahead and threaten. Okay. Now, let's do one more turn just to show how we can use the regard we have with him to make requests and strong arm this threaten plot to get this to be 100%, okay?
Serve me well, for the most holy are always watching.
Okay, so this will kind of wrap our last action for this, right? Now what we're going to do, we have this plot. This is a threaten plot to assume his position, so moving up in court. However, it starts at 34%, and we only have 37 regard. So we can strengthen this plot and spend that 30, but then we have to spend turns either, you know, we don't have legitimacy built with, or regard built with anybody else to conspire and increase that plot level. But what we do have is we can utilize the king, the pharaoh, we can make a request, and we can go to this strong arm.
I would
See?
never
So
disappoint
now we spent the
such a
regard we
loyal
built with
Egyptian
him.
subject.
Now we have a 100% chance to take this position in 4 turns. Okay. And here, let's just go ahead and hit your boy with that.
I knew
Excellent.
I could trust the fellow Egyptian
And now
to
we
be
still have
reasonable.
regard with him. So one thing we might want to do now is next turn, go ahead and try to discredit this guy too, right? We'll already have 75 regard already kind of pooled and built with him. And then, you know, we're pretty much at 47. So our base chance is going to be increased because we have higher legitimacy from him. All right, y'all. But that is the court system in a nutshell. The kind of block and tackle of everything you need to know. There are going to be some small nuances between other areas' courts. But overall, that's pretty much how to work the system. Some faction leaders, as mentioned, do have specific court abilities. And they're kind of made for the court. Like Bay, for example, has some pretty cool ones. But I'll have you check those out. Anyway, that'll do it. Thanks for checking this out. Let me know if there's anything else that was confusing or that you want me to cover, or what other feature of Total War Pharaoh you want me to cover, whether that's the god system, favor, legitimacy. I have some videos planned, but I want to hear from you first, so let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.